Home buyers, do you want to avoid losing tens of thousands of dollars when buying a home? Let me tell you now, the average homeowner buys about 3 homes in their lifetime. Right now, they live on average in their houses for an average of 8 years. It used to be 6.5 years. It's gone up to 8. Now, I can tell you from my own personal experience, home buyers rarely have an exit plan in mind when they're going into their next purchase. I brought that mindset to a lot of buyers before going in. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 key items from a list of many that I think about when helping a buyer purchase a home. So this way, you might consider it before your next purchase. Number 1, consider who is your buyer. So when you're going into a place, envision who's more likely to buy this property from you when it comes time for you to sell. So you're considering the dynamic of the floor plan, the location. Is it a school community? Is it a location that's close to downtown amenities? Are you going to appeal more to families? Are you going to appeal to young professionals, to seniors perhaps? And then does the property make sense to match up with that type of buyer that you think will be interested in your property later? Because if there's a mismatch, that can lead to a little frustration on the market. Why does no one want to buy my home? Why am I seeing these other ones move and not mine? So think about who your buyer will be in the future. Perhaps it'll be you, just at their stage in life where you are today, looking at that home. What were the things that drew you to the property? They're likely to be the same considerations for the next one. During the time that you own the property, could those things that you like about it change? Is there going to be development around the area? Are things going to be changing around the community? Was a big part of you buying it being that it's a new construction home? Because if it was, it's not going to be new for your next buyer. 2, lot location. I can't stress this more enough, especially if you're in the North Texas communities and there's a lot of new construction going on around the area, but this really applies to around the country, more so again if you're looking at new construction communities. Really hone in on lot location. Is there something about the lot that you can acquire that differentiates you from the rest? Something that perhaps is backing up to a green space, or giving you a view, or giving you a larger lot than perhaps the rest of the community? Are you closer to the community amenities than others? Are you on the main driving route for people to get into the community, or are you on a quieter road? Is there a cul-de-sac? Can you get on that? Are the things that would really drive a buyer to see an advantage to being on the lot that you can get versus others? Those differentiators could be key on marketing the home against future competitive sellers. Now, you might not be buying into a new community. You might be buying into an already established. The rules still apply. If you can get on a cul-de-sac versus not, then definitely try to do so. If you can get something that has a protected view in the back, or something that gives you an added level of privacy where another owner might not be able to offer that, super. Consider that lot setup, because that can come into not just what house you've got, but it gives you a whole different experience into home ownership for what you're buying. And those things are what other buyers will also enjoy when you come to time to sell. Number 3, consider development growth. Now, if you're in an area that is growing, and I'm over in Celina, Prosper, McKinney, there's a lot of growth going on in the area. You might buy into a neighborhood where perhaps it's nice and private in the back. There's an open field. However, is it always going to be an open field? I cannot tell you time and time again how many homes I see go on the market when an open field turns into houses in the back. It changes the whole environment, not just visually for privacy, but sound, that openness that can sometimes have a play on that natural daylight feel that comes in. So if you're thinking about trying to buy into a community and you see an open space behind some houses, check to see if it's protected. And if it is protected, how much of it is protected? Is there something on the other side of the space that could come in that could impact your enjoyment of the property? Now, other development growth situations you might want to consider is road expansions. There's some communities that have roads that go right through it. They might widen during that time. Advantages you might want to consider are bigger roads coming to your community that connect you to other amenities. That's a great plus for your location. So can you get in early before that growth really hits to take advantage of that price appreciation with ease of accessibility? Avoid the ones that impact right around the house itself, something that doesn't impact your noise or, again, your privacy. You want to make sure you want to find the ones that amplify how great your neighborhood is versus changing the character or the dynamic of the property. You know, if you might go into a community where to begin with it's pretty walkable, it might be pretty nice. You feel like your kids, if you have kids, could walk to school, but a main big road that goes in can completely change that feeling on how safe that might be. So development growth definitely plays in that nature. On a more grand scheme, let's think about what the town or city might be doing. Are there new restaurants coming, new schools, new emergency services coming, new hospitals? Is the development giving you something that you don't have yet that you might enjoy in the future? Something that might draw more people to your community. And if they draw more people, that's a great situation for you on how many buyers will be at your front door, hoping one day that you might sell. Number 4, cost of selling your home. So the average appreciation level historically sits around 2 to 3%. During the pandemic years, we had 10, 12, 15% increases. Unlikely to see those again for quite some time. But let's work off the 2 to 3% averages. And you buy a home, when you're looking at how much you're spending, you have to consider most sellers, it's costing them around 6 to 8%, depending on where you are in the country, on selling the home. So when you're coming to think about the equations, you got to go, okay, if I'm buying it at X, what is a 6 to 8% increase on there? Do I feel like there's going to be a buyer willing to spend that number to buy this property from me in, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years from now? A safer bet is the 5 to 10 range, which is really kind of where the average homeowner is sitting right now on how long they own the property for, which is pretty normal. But think about that cost, because if you think you have a risk of moving in 12 to 24 months, at the rate of appreciation, the likelihood is you might not have reached that sale price from a appreciation growth to sell without losing some money. So be mindful of that before going into a buy. Number 5, steps up and steps down. It seems so small and trivial, but I cannot tell you how often we've looked at a property with a buyer and the steps up to a property are a big consideration for them, or even the steps down. And when I say steps down, that's going out of the home, down to the driveway, perhaps down to the backyard. Steps are a big consideration, especially as it provides a limitation on how many people really see themselves in the property. If they're needing a single level, perhaps they are wanting to avoid stairs in their older age of life, or maybe they have wheelchair needs within their family, or they simply don't want to manage the aspect of what if it's icy on the steps. Those steps are a big consideration. If you buy a home and perhaps it steps up to the main level, that's bringing groceries up every time. That's a big hurdle for a lot of people to consider when buying a home. I just want you to be mindful before you buy the property. Now, if you're in a community where this is pretty normal, as you usually find those more in downtown communities, then that's fine. It's more of a standardized thing. If someone's looking to buy in that area, they're already going to be considering that this is just the norm. But if you're buying in a community where there's a lot of main level living, or at least accessing the property and the kitchen levels on the main level, and there's very few steps, if your steps up, that's going to be a big challenge for you. And when you're comparing home values or who your competitors are, you're going to want to be comparing to other ones that have similar challenges to get the right idea on price. So anyway, be mindful of accessibility in and out of a home before you buy. I could not stress it more. Number 6, I'm going to be going on one that hits on pretty much everyone's wish list on buying a home: natural light. Are you doing things that help emphasize the natural light that comes in the property? Or when you go into the home, do you find there's challenges with natural light? Because if you do, that's going to be a big challenge for your next buyer to accept that property. Now, as growth expands, lot lines minimize between certain properties, and depending on where the window placements are, that can really place a limitation on how much natural light is getting into the home. So when you're walking through, I really want you to be mindful of how much natural light is getting into the home. And the way the roof is lined up, emphasizing that, or providing a challenge. Where are the windows placed? Do those windows really put the natural light in where I need it, which is really in that main living room and kitchen areas. I'm not overly as worried about half bathrooms or hallway bathrooms or even the office, that main living area. Now, the paintwork in there, can that be changed or improved to emphasize that natural light? Perhaps, but do not undervalue the weight of natural light in a buyer's impression on the home. It completely changes everything. And I tell you now, from all of the buyer consultations I do, 99% of all of them have natural light as a key aspect in their search. It should always be a key aspect when you're considering if it's the right home for you. And being that natural light is so important, you want to be thinking about what the future holds for that. Are trees going to grow and limit your natural light? Perhaps you're buying a condominium downtown and there's a new tower that might go up. Is that new tower going to go right in front of where the sun is going to give you all that beautiful natural light? Perhaps. We've seen it before, and it completely changes the environment and the vibe and the feel of that condominium tower in the downtown area. So be mindful of what you've got, and again, a combination of natural light and development growth. What's coming? What can you determine before you buy it that will help you make sure you keep that key feature for a property? All right, number 7, and this really changes depending on what community you're in, but your competition to sell. And your agent's really going to go through this with you. But let's say you're in North Texas, and North Texas has a lot of new construction in the market currently. Now, if you're selling your home and you're competing against new construction, that's a heavy contender because they can offer things perhaps that you might not be able to do with competitive interest rates. They're offering a new property with a warranty attached to it as well. Everything looks new, feels new, because it is new. How close can you be to something like that? Now, if you're in an area where perhaps there's not as much new construction, then we're going to be looking into, again, you're competing with other private owners that are selling their homes. So you've got to be factoring in what's going on, again, with your lot location, what's going on with your surroundings, your setting, your privacy. And this is kind of leaning in on some other aspects of considerations I run through my head when reviewing a property to know how likely is it for someone to want this home later when it's time for you to sell it. Now, we could go into other aspects of competition of selling as well. What time of year are you having to sell? Is there a better time than others? Statistics will lean in and tell you when those are, but sometimes we don't get the choice of that decision if we're having to sell in an emergency, or perhaps work is relocating you at a certain time. So you want to be mindful of all of those things and talking with your professional real estate agent to go through the best strategy to balance your home with the competitors on the market. All right, so that was 7 tips to consideration for an exit plan before you buy. And I tell you, they are 7 of many. Is it 15, 20, 25? I'm thinking it's about 25 things that run through my head. But you're going through how individual properties can vary greatly. Is there something that gives you a unique component to others? A lot of people complain they don't want cookie cutter, right? So maybe you don't buy something overly cookie cutter. How easy replaceable is your house with another, right? Because then it really comes down to condition. Anyway, if you want to know more or have a discussion about exit plan or things to consider, and it wasn't part of the 7 that I just went through, do not hesitate. Reach out to me, fill out the form below. I'd love to connect with you, and we would love to connect perhaps on helping you buy the right thing, or maybe sell something that you shouldn't have bought in the first place. Thanks for taking a moment to watch this video. If you've enjoyed the information or you'd like to know more things about home buying tips, home selling tips, anything in regards to real estate, please like and subscribe this page. Let me know the things you're interested in. Thanks for watching.